Newlyweds Rocky and Sarah had only been married for 3 months when they moved into the small, modest rental house near the city outskirts. The house wasn't glamorous, just 2 bedrooms, an old kitchen, and a living room with creaking wooden floors, but it was close to their jobs and within their tight budget. The landlord, a middle-aged man with a worn-out smile, had been oddly eager to rent it out, offering a heavy discount if they agreed to move in immediately. They didn't question it. The first night passed quietly. The second was restless. By the third night, something felt off. It began with small disturbances. The ceiling fan in their bedroom, though brand new, would stop spinning in the middle of the night, making the room unbearably hot. When Rocky would get up to check the switch, the fan would suddenly restart, spinning wildly as if mocking him. The television turned on and off by itself, mostly around 3 a.m., always blasting static at full volume. Sarah began hearing faint knocks on the walls. At first, she assumed it was just an old house settling, but the knocking became rhythmic. 3 short taps. Every night. Always around the same time. One night, the knocking came from inside the kitchen cupboard. When Rocky opened it, there was nothing inside but an empty shelf and a rotting onion. One evening, as Sarah was cooking, she heard soft sobbing coming from the living room. She thought Rocky had returned home early, but the house was empty. When she peeked into the room, she saw the TV screen flickering, displaying a distorted image of a girl with long black hair covering her face, standing there, unmoving. The screen blinked, and she was gone. Sarah screamed. Rocky rushed back home from work to find her trembling on the floor. That night, they both decided to sleep with the lights on, but the lights flickered, buzzed, and finally died just past midnight. And then the whispering began. Soft, feminine, repeating one word. Leave. The whisper came from behind the wardrobe. When Rocky opened it, nothing was there, just their clothes and the heavy smell of mildew. But the chill remained, curling down their spines and freezing their thoughts. They tried to ignore it. They blamed the electrical issues on faulty wiring, the whispers on stress, but denial only fed the thing in the house. Every night, the disturbances grew louder. The kitchen would erupt in metallic clangs in the dead of night. The refrigerator door opened by itself. Cabinet doors slammed. One night, they found all the knives from the drawer arranged neatly in the circle on the dining table, their edges facing inward. Sarah began to lose sleep. Her eyes grew hollow and her hands trembled. She would mumble in her sleep. Sometimes Rocky would wake up to find her standing in the hallway, eyes wide open, whispering to someone unseen in the shadows. He tried to reach the landlord, who dismissed their concerns with a nervous laugh. "Old house makes old noises," he said. But something in his voice told a different story. Then came the night that changed everything. Sarah woke up screaming, clutching her throat, eyes wide with terror. She was here, in our room, hanging just above the bed. Rocky turned on the lights. Nothing was there, but on the ceiling there were faint scratch marks, long, jagged, and in a circle, as if someone had clawed at it while spinning. That was when they knew they had to find the truth.
The next morning, Rocky and Sarah sat in silence over their untouched breakfast. Their eyes, sunken and heavy with fear, barely met. Whatever was haunting their nights had now begun to infect their days. The house felt darker even during daylight, like the walls themselves were closing in around them. Sarah couldn't stop shaking, I saw her, Rocky, not in a dream. She was hanging above me, her hair brushing my face. Her eyes were open, staring at me. Rocky clenched his jaw. That's it. I'm not letting this go. I'm going to the landlord again. But when he visited the landlord's house, the man wasn't home. The neighbor shrugged and said he rarely stayed in one place for long. That struck Rocky as strange. Why would someone avoid the very house they owned? Later that day, desperate for answers, Sarah ventured alone to the corner grocery store, just a few houses down the street. The old shopkeeper, Mr. Rahim, had a kind face that turned pale the moment Sarah mentioned the house number. "You're living in that house?" he asked in a hushed voice. Sarah nodded. "Yes, we've been hearing things, seeing things. We think it's haunted." Mr. Rahim's eyes darted around to make sure no one else was listening. Then he leaned forward and said, "That house has a dark past. Years ago, a young girl named Neela used to live there with her family. Quiet girl, never caused trouble, but something changed. Her parents said she started talking to herself, screaming at night, said the house was whispering to her." Sarah felt a chill race down her spine. One night, Mr. Rahim continued, her parents found her in the kitchen, hanging from the ceiling fan. No note, no explanation, just gone. He paused before adding, "After that, no one stayed in that house long. Renters would complain of the same things: noises, cold spots, strange smells. Some even saw her. The landlord knows, but he never tells anyone, just wants the money." Sarah felt the floor beneath her vanish, the whispers, the fan, the girl above the bed. It all made sense now. She thanked Mr. Rahim with a shaky voice and ran home. That night, Sarah told Rocky everything. He went pale. "We need to leave." But as they began packing their bags, the house resisted. The front door jammed. The windows refused to open. The lights flickered violently, even though the fan above them was spinning faster and faster, even though it wasn't turned on. The air turned thick, like they were underwater. And then the whisper came again, louder this time. "Why did you come?" Sarah screamed. The bedroom mirror shattered on its own. Shards of glass flew across the room, slicing into Rocky's arm. Blood dripped on the floor in rhythmic beats. From the walls, muffled sobs began to rise, as if the house itself was mourning. In the middle of the chaos, Sarah noticed something terrifying. The ceiling fan was shaking. Slowly, a noose-shaped cord began descending from it, exactly like what she saw in her nightmare. The air was icy cold now, and then for a fleeting moment, they saw her. A girl in a white dress. Her hair covered her face. Her feet dangled a few inches above the ground. She pointed toward them with one bony, trembling finger. "It's my home. You can't stay." Sarah and Rocky fled to the living room, hearts pounding, breath shallow. The front door, earlier jammed, suddenly creaked open on its own. Without thinking, they ran out into the street, barefoot and screaming. Only when they were outside, under the open night sky, did the air feel breathable again. They didn't sleep that night. They stayed at a nearby hotel, trembling and silent. The next morning, Rocky returned to the house briefly to collect some things. What he found sent a final chill through his bones. On their bedroom wall, written in what looked like dried blood, were 3 words: "She never left."
Rocky stood frozen in the doorway, eyes fixed on the message scrawled across the bedroom wall. "She never left." It looked like blood, dark, sticky, and chillingly fresh. He didn't go further inside. He grabbed what he could from the living room, a backpack, some papers, his laptop, and left without stepping into the bedroom. The air in the house felt alive, angry, as if it knew he was trying to leave for good. Later that day, Rocky and Sarah returned to confront the landlord one last time. He had finally come back to his own home, and when he saw them approaching, his face fell. He didn't even pretend to be cheerful this time. "You didn't tell us the truth," Rocky snapped, his voice sharp. "You knew what happened in that house. The girl, the suicide—" "I don't know what you're talking about," the landlord interrupted nervously. "That house is old. It creaks. That's all." Sarah stepped forward, trembling but furious. "We saw her. We heard her voice. The grocery shopkeeper told us everything. You knew, and you said nothing." The landlord's face darkened. He rubbed his temples, as if this conversation had happened too many times before. "I didn't lie," he muttered. "I just didn't want to scare anyone away. It's not my fault if people get carried away with ghost stories." Rocky slammed his hand on the wooden fence. "People are in danger!" The landlord looked up at them, defeated. "You think you're the first ones to come yelling at me like this? No one lasts more than a few weeks. I can't afford to keep that house empty forever." Sarah stepped back in horror. "You've been letting people live there, knowing what happens?" He didn't answer. But then he said something strange. "She doesn't like being ignored. She punishes those who pretend she isn't real." Sarah's eyes widened. "You've seen her too? Haven't you?" The landlord's lips tightened. "Years ago, when I was young, it used to be our family home. My younger sister, Neela, she was the one who died there." The silence hit like thunder. He continued, voice cracking. "She was sick, but we didn't understand back then. She kept saying someone was in her room, whispering to her, telling her to do things. We thought she was just having bad dreams. We ignored her." Tears welled up in his eyes. "Then one day we found her, hanging from the fan. She left no note, just a smile on her face. That haunted me for years, still does." Sarah whispered, "So the whispers were real? Even then?" The landlord nodded slowly. "That house is cursed. Or maybe she became the curse. She's still there. I feel it every time I go near the place. But I can't let it go. Something holds me to it, like she wants me to keep bringing people in." Rocky took a step back. "You're using renters as bait." The landlord didn't deny it. "That house wants people. It feeds on them. The longer they stay, the stronger it gets. But if I don't rent it out, she comes to me, and I can't go through that again. You think you're victims? Try living with her voice every night for years." Sarah's skin crawled. "So you let her torture strangers instead?" "She makes me," the landlord whispered, like a man already lost. Suddenly, the wind picked up. A bitter, cold breeze passed over them. From the shadows of the street, a soft, unmistakable whisper echoed. "He lied again." Sarah gasped and turned to Rocky. "We need to leave this town, now." But before they could turn to go, they noticed something. The landlord was no longer breathing. His eyes stared forward, unblinking. His mouth hung slightly open. From the inside of his throat, a faint gurgling sound escaped, followed by a quiet feminine whisper. "He was mine." He collapsed.
The landlord's body hit the ground with a heavy, lifeless thud. Sarah screamed. Rocky grabbed her and pulled her back, staring at the corpse with wide, horrified eyes. The faint whisper still lingered in the air, almost like it was laughing, twisting, mocking. "He was mine." They didn't wait. They ran. Through the narrow street, past the flickering streetlights, past the cursed house, her house, without looking back. They checked into a motel 2 towns away, still shaking, barely speaking. All night, Sarah sat with her back against the door, eyes wide open, clutching a kitchen knife in one hand. Rocky scrolled through news articles, old forum posts, anything he could find. What he uncovered was worse than they had imagined. There were at least 5 other deaths linked to the house in the past 10 years, all ruled as accidents or suicides. All tenants, no legal complaints, no media coverage. It was like the house erased its own history over and over. And the landlord, he was the common link in every story. Rocky looked at Sarah. "She's killing them, one by one," Sarah whispered. "And now she'll come for us." That night, they didn't sleep. And yet the dreams still came. Sarah dreamt of the girl, Neela, sitting at the foot of her bed, head tilted, whispering in a voice as soft as wind and as cold as death. "You were supposed to stay." Rocky dreamt of the house burning, but the flames made no sound. Instead, the walls bled, and the fan above spanned faster and faster until it turned into a noose. They woke up gasping. But the worst part? The motel room's ceiling fan had started spinning even though the switch was off. Sarah stood up and said, "We have to do something. We can't run. She'll follow us." Rocky nodded grimly. "We end this." The next day, they returned to the house one last time. Not to pack, not to stay, to finish it. Sarah carried a bag full of sage, salt, and candles, anything she could find about banishment rituals, even if she didn't believe in them. Rocky brought gasoline. They entered the house together. The air inside was colder than ever, and darker too, like even the sunlight didn't dare to come in. The moment they stepped in, the door slammed shut behind them. From the hallway, soft footsteps echoed. The sound of sobbing began again, closer now. And then, thump, thump, thump. The ceiling fan above began to spin. "Neela," Sarah said out loud, her voice shaking. "We know what happened to you. We're sorry. You were hurt. You were ignored. But this has to stop." No answer. Just the sound of wind rushing around them, though all windows were shut. Then, a scream, a shriek so loud, so inhuman, it cracked the walls. Blood seeped from the ceiling, the lights exploded, the house trembled as if it were alive and fighting back. And in the center of the living room, she appeared. Neela. Dangling, her lifeless eyes wide open, face pale, lips stitched into a crooked grin. Her head tilted as her feet floated inches from the ground. She raised one hand and pointed at them. Sarah stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "You're not alone anymore. You don't have to hurt anyone else." For a second, Neela's expression changed. Her head twitched, confused. That was all the time Rocky needed. He lit the match and dropped it onto the gasoline-soaked floor. The fire spread instantly, engulfing the room in orange rage. Neela screamed, no longer a ghostly whisper, but a howl of pain and fury. The house shook violently as if it were alive and fighting back. Rocky and Sarah ran. Out the door, down the steps, and across the road. Behind them, flames burst through the windows. The fan on the ceiling exploded, sending metal blades flying into the night. The house burned for hours. No fire trucks came. No neighbors approached. By dawn, it was ashes. Rocky and Sarah moved to another city. They never talked about the house again. Their nights became quiet, peaceful. Until one night, as Sarah tucked their newborn daughter into bed, she noticed something strange. The baby monitor flickered. A soft static buzzed. And from the monitor speaker, a whisper. "You shouldn't have left me."